And that's why she condemned racism, nationalism, communism, feminism, and machismo, all of the same, because these are all
all the corners of the political compass. I condemn it all. I condemn and endorse none of it, and also hate it. And also it's wonderful, and also terrible. Everything. Feminism, machismo. Fuck them all.
Ayn Rand is a really big topic, and it's hard to know where to start, but one thing that you focused on in your video, which I think is actually the most interesting aspect of Ayn Rand, is her view on morality. So in your video, you talk about how Ayn Rand considered capitalism to be not just an aspect.
This is 125, isn't it? Oh, okay. I was like, this seems very slow.
Of a moral society, but the foundation of morality itself, or the foundation of the ideal morality. So I want to listen to a clip of your video, and then I'm going to ask you about that, okay?
Rand advocated pure capitalism, which she described as a system in which the government acts only as a policeman that protects men's rights. No bailouts, no special favors for big business, no
That's basically what you're describing the state.
government intervention into the economy. When people are free to produce and trade, and when the government is limited to protecting rights, everyone benefits.
Many people summarize Ayn Rand's philosophy as
Yeah, protecting rights. She wants the protection of capital. She wants the protection of people who have possessions, things, wealth. That's it. From the poors. Because again, remember, under Ayn Rand's philosophy, the poor is the downtrodden, those who are not willing to lift themselves up from their bootstraps. Well, they are moral failures, but it's on them, right? It's their decision to do that. They've decided not to be poor because they're idiots. They're the poors, of course, and so that's on them.
greed is good. Would you say that's fair and accurate?
I would say that what Ayn Rand focuses on is rationality. And from the basis of what is rational, what it comes to be the most peaceful interaction that two human beings can have is trade. Is the only way that we can, in a peaceful and
Isn't that such a dark and grim view of humanity as a whole? Like the only peaceful transaction or communication you can have with other human beings is through economic trade. That's it. Like that almost just removes the humanity itself. Like we are but things to be exchanged. That is it. That's the sum total of our human experience. Let's exchange some goods, some wares, if you will.
look for the talents that we within each other we don't have to exchange values, products, and services, right? The other options are war, plunder, expoliation, robbery.
It's got to be a very pretty deep limit of imagination, if you will. If that's basically your view of the world. It's like, if we are not involved in commerce with each other as human beings at all times, we have to kill each other or plunder or rape each other. That's the only options available. So we might as well be exchanging goods and services. That's what this all comes down to. It all boils down to what exactly can we buy and sell from one another. That's the sum total of human interaction and should always be.
So for her, trade is moral because it's the only rational means in order to acquire something that someone else with different talents that you have can individually produce. So that's why she called capitalism moral. But she also mentioned that unfortunately, we never have true capitalism, true free market, unless the law equally treats everybody with no privileges, with no subsidies, with no protectionisms, and no bailouts. So this is why her views also...
Oops, doesn't sound like our society.
so
in any way, shape, or
in
form.
the left wing and the right wing as well.
Well, one thing that's actually really interesting about Ayn Rand, and maybe you can speak to this, is she doesn't identify as a conservative. She identifies as an objectivist. Can you tell us a little bit about what it means to be an objectivist?
She developed her own philosophy.
I was like, that's her own invention, by the way. That's like you making up your own kind of philosophy to be able to describe yourself. Really, objectivism at its core tenets is you being okay and moralizing, being an absolute wretch to the rest of humanity. That's it. Being a selfish asshole, that's objectivism in summation.
Under the pillars of understanding from the metaphysical point of view that existence exists. And you shouldn't be fighting against reality, but understand reality in order to accommodate it so that human beings can have the better life that they can possibly have using reason as their tool to understand that reality. So she steps away from any mysticism or any view of the world that rejects reality as it is. From there, she develops an epistemological point of view where the concepts and the development of language is the basis for human understanding. From there, she goes on to politics and economics. That's why in economics, she defends capitalism as the only moral system that there is.
It's cause and effect at the end of the day, right? Are you objectively viewing how you interpret reality from the perspective of that who has created it or is interpreting it or is experiencing it? That's what it comes down to. That's very, very well and well-deserved glossy way of painting over the fact that ultimately this is like the ANCAP philosophy. From the ground on up. And
on the higher and ultimate level is art. She developed in the Romantic Manifesto how all the forms of art, from architecture, music, even the movie industry, can be tools into putting out there all the values and principles that a human being is trying to achieve in a society. So these 5 branches.
That's where you get the idea, and a time-honored one, of conservative concerns with culture. And shaping or manipulating culture, making sure, I mean, to this day, think of how many people, whether it's Tim Pool, whether it's Ben Shapiro, they're all like, we have to get into actual outside just politics culture as conservatives. We have to start making conservative TV shows. We watched The Blaze, Kevin Sorbo's fucking horrible conservative TV show. Like, they've been telling you they're trying to do this for a while. They're like, Tim Pool is like, I'm now making non-political content. I'm going to be doing my kind of like streamer life in this weird kind of cult that I got going down here. We're gonna live our best lives together. Propaganda, yeah, ultimately.
It's what she calls objectivism, a philosophy to live in this world. And its basis is that you as an individual, you are an end in your own self. You are not the means of someone else, and you cannot use other human beings for your own like ends, even if they are in your head.
Oh, that sucks, because that's basically how capitalism works. Oh no, it seems like a massive contradiction. Yeah, because that's basically how the entire capitalist system works. You're not really going to make more money without exploiting other people. It's not how the system is set up to do. It's about owning and buying and selling capital. The only way human beings are capable of interacting with each other. That whole shtick. It's that or we're monsters. We have 2 choices. Which way, Western man? Are you going to do this one thing where we just commute and communicate entirely through commerce? Is that it? Or are you going to be a beastly monster and just begin plundering and raping everybody? It's up to you.
So it's interesting that you describe it that way, because I think most people, when they first hear about Ayn Rand's philosophy of kind of greed is good, their first concern is exploitation. So how does Ayn Rand marry that together of everyone pursuing their own goals, but also avoiding a situation of exploitation?
So in her book, The Virtue of Selfishness, she explains that you are a selfish person as long as you understand that other individuals also have the right to pursue their own happiness, have their own interests, personal interests. And in the moment that you respect the life, the liberty, and the private property of other individuals, you are being a rational, selfish human being.
This is all so contradictory, all of it from the ground up. So, I mean, what do you need people to do? Just to scream at you? Like, okay, so it's not working out that way. We've got gross inequality. 8 human beings own half the wealth on the planet. Like, half of all the wealth on Earth is owned by 8 fucking men. 8 men! That's it, for 7 billion people. So, like, that's fucked up. The system is just producing gross inequality, the likes of which we've never seen. Like, I don't know, even in the times of like slavery or in the times of like feudalism, was that much wealth hyper concentrated? Like, even lords and kings, I mean, even at the height of the Ottoman Empire, for example, there was multiple different individuals who had vast amounts of concentrated wealth and empires, certainly, but they didn't have, like, there wasn't 8. There wasn't 8 accounting for half of all of humanity. That's some hyper concentration of resources. Come on.
If you understand that you have a right to go for your dreams, you also have to respect other human beings' rights to go for their dreams as well. So this is why she calls that this is the most moral.
There it is. Well, there's the meritocracy, like, boiled down, right? Each of you will live and die by your own, like, abilities. That's it. So get out there. And also, like, how good are you at doing things? Are you going to be effectively working hard every day? Do you wake up and go to bed and save properly and exercise? Or are you, that's all on you. There's absolutely no external factors. None at play. None whatsoever. Not either in the way and the situation, like when and where you're born, who, like how you're born, where, like all these factors. Not only that, let's add societal ones. That's like little prejudices, you know, and all the way that we've structured society. How we've actually got things like systemic racism. Our ability to hire people sometimes will be affected by the race itself, the pigmentation, the color of their skin, yes, and the shade even. I mean, we've gotten so precise in our racism that we have a thing called colorization, in which, yeah, the darker the skin you might have, the less ample your opportunities become in society. That's Randian, right? That's all part of the game. All part of the game.
Philosophy of them all, because no one is stepping on each other's foot in order to harm the dreams and the goals that everyone has. Thomas Sowell also said something similar, and Walter Williams, when they talked about social justice, and they say, well, my definition of social justice is that you keep with whatever you have worked for, and I can keep whatever I have worked for. And if you have any reason to take something from me that I worked, tell me why. Where is the morality on that, right? So when you go a little bit in depth,
again, that's all of capitalism. That's how it works. I mean, like, I'm not even saying this from like I'm condemning it morally, although I would, but like just the very idea of like, in order for you to turn a profit, you are going to have to sell the items that are being produced for more than the amount that you are paying your employees. That's just basic math. No one fundamentally disagrees with that. Where you might come into some kind of qualms about morality is whether or not that is justified, whether or not like, oh, well, I will justify that because I'm the job creator at the end of the day. So I'm giving people jobs. I'm helping them feed their families. That's upon me. Now the burden of proof has been laid on me to justify why this hierarchy exists. But no one denies that. For you to then like turn this on its head, it's just like, it's so fundamentally flawed.
You will discover that this type of philosophy offers you the opportunity of treating other human beings in the highest regard as you treat yourself. And if you understand that you have rights and you have goals, then the other 7 billion people living in this planet also. And that's why she condemned racism, nationalism, communism, feminism, and machismo all of the same, because these are all
all the corners of the political compass. I condemn it all. I condemn and endorse none of it, and also hate it. And also it's wonderful, and also terrible. Everything. Feminism, machismo. Fuck them all. Fuck equality, but also fuck chauvinism. You know, fuck gender equality, and fuck the chauvinists at the same time. It sounds confusing, you know. It sounds like, oh man, it's all consuming. You condemn everything and nothing.
Like mental constructs that don't exist in reality, and they are ways in which the human being divides each other unnecessarily for capitalism not to flourish, for true liberty and true equality not to happen.
No, how are you disassociating these two things? This is ridiculous. This is like almost cartoonish at this point. It's like, I'm going to separate these two fundamental principles that may or may not exacerbate each other. They are independent. One does not allow the other. It's because capitalism doesn't flourish that we have the racism. That's entirely, that's it. You figured it out. You cracked the code there. That's the only race that's the reason racism exists. That doesn't mean that in any way, shape, or form that the very idea of race itself was designed to justify the exploitation of other human beings based on characteristics as silly as skin pigmentation, as fucking melanin. Like how much melanin you had. It's like, okay, well, yeah, that's gonna have to justify us not paying these other individuals and treating them horrifically, treating them like actual animals. Yeah, actual animals, like to the point that we're going to brand them. We are going to brand them like cows. That's like chattel slavery was named for a very specific reason. Like, holy fuck. These things are so interconnected. The very creation of it is based in capitalism.
You mentioned that Ayn Rand condemned communism, and she grew up in Soviet Russia. Can you talk a little bit about how her background informed her morality and her worldview?
Well, I think it was crucial because the whole communist idea is that you as a human being, you're worth nothing. You are only worthy if you sacrifice yourself for the common good of the whole society. So what you have at the end is a lot of human beings, all of them renouncing to their dreams, their goals, their personal interests for this idea that doesn't exist in reality of the common good of
That's
a
what
nation.
communism is.
So you will always have a class that is absolutely exploited, taken out of all the rights for the dream of this altruism.
That's what exploitation is. Yeah, communism, Venezuela, rats, Stalin, all of it. Yeah, there it is. That the whole thing laid out before you. Now you have it. It's all, hey, it's been revealed. All of you. Did you enjoy this revelation? Have you learned things?
And this goal of having everyone as equal. But in reality, communism, unfortunately, doesn't bring equality. The only equality it brings is equality in misery for most of the population, but still there's an oligarchy. And in Soviet Russia, we can see it with Lenin, with Stalin, and in all communism.
Fuck. These words have no meaning. Just say whatever you want. What the fuck are you talking about?
Regimes, you can see that there's always an oligarchy that benefits from having everyone deprived of their rights. So when she saw that, she said altruism is evil, because in the name of sacrificing each other, what George Orwell put in Animal Farm, she drew from that to say, this is horrible.
What do you think Animal Farm was about? Like, hey, at least we have a new sentence. Like, hey, this is the second joke. It's like there's more than two genders, everyone. We did it. We got it. And now instead of everything being 1984, it's also Animal Farm at the same time, you know? Like, we don't have to be like George Orwell in 1976 to us or anything like that. It can also be like, yeah, well, also Animal Farm, you know? Come on.
I know that it is like an iceberg, no? The iceberg of communism in the...
a debate between her and Professor Wolf, I don't think... I mean, if you would like, it would be funny for the memes. All right, what's your name? International libertarian broadcaster and author Gloria Alvarez. I mean, I don't think that's very fair. That's basically just like, you know... You're gonna just watch someone get steamrolled. It's gonna be comical. I don't know if I would be able to, like, I wouldn't be able to, like, it was hard enough with the Destiny debate, like sitting there and like objectively trying to remain completely impartial. With this, like, what am I supposed to do? International libertarian broadcaster and author Gloria Alvarez. Okay, well, first off, it depends whether she wants to. I'm not someone who likes to force debates on anybody. That's very debate bro culture, but I'll reach out to her. Oh God. Check this shit out. Como hablar con un progre. How to sound like a progressive. How to speak like a progressive. Como hablar con un conservador. How to speak like a conservative. So you basically go from Che to Thatcher. That's the evolution here. Which way, Western women? Which way? Are you going to be a Che or a Thatcher? That's on you. Choose wisely.
Sounds so
There's still so much left. God damn.
good, because it's all about, you know, equality and fraternity, and all of us are going to be happy. But in the depths of that iceberg, there are gulags and misery and genocide. When you talk about selfishness, in the tip of the iceberg of selfishness, it sounds... What
was happening under Hitler? What was that? Was that just like good times? Was that not like hyper-capitalism, fascism, the final boss, the final stage, you know? Like, I know, who was it? I think it was Lenin. Imperialism is the highest form of capitalism, but I would correct that. I would say it's got to be fascism. Fascism happens to be the final boss.
Horrible. It sounds like every man for himself. No one cares about anyone. There's no love. There's no, empathy. When what actually Rand is saying is, no, when you care about yourself, you not only are not a burden for your society, but you have something to add up to that society with your talents, with your studies, with the things that you come up with. And so the depth of that iceberg brings prosperity and brings individualism. So every individual is worth the same. You don't need those divisions, or you don't need a government saying that you have to privilege some group, because no one in the first place needed to be considered a second-hand citizen.
Something that's really interesting about Ayn Rand is she really idolized the founding fathers of the United States, and she loved their philosophy that they came up with.
The current number of incarceration in the U.S. is larger than the absolute numbers in the Gulag population at its peak. The United States has the largest prison population in human history. 1% of the U.S. population is in jail. 1%. That is just, they have a quarter of the entire planet's prisoners and 5% of the entire planet's population. That is mind-boggling. Like, it doesn't even come close. There's no other metric. There's no measure. Like, this is just the facts. This is empirical. The number of human beings in cages in the United States, it's fucked. There's no other way to put it, you know? Number one by a huge margin. A massive margin. Yeah, it's almost as if having a for-profit prison system was a mistake. Wasn't Poggy's. Kind of seems like that's really fucked up. If there's a fiduciary and financial incentive to fill your prison population, something's fucked up. How do you match that? What do you do on the other end? I guess you got to have the drug war, because otherwise, how do you really justify having millions upon millions of mostly black Americans in cages? You know, making them do unpaid labor or like fucking pennies on the dollar, modern day slavery, super fucked up. How do you justify all this?
But what's interesting is she came to it from a different direction. So the founding fathers here talk about rights endowed by a creator, which is why they valued personal freedoms. But Ayn Rand came to it from the idea of reason. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe she was a firm atheist. So can you talk a little bit about her feelings about the founding fathers and how we can compare and contrast their views?
Yeah, actually, one of the things she celebrated as a capitalist atheist from the founding fathers was that they were...
The 1% doesn't even tell the whole story. That's currently incarcerated people. When you factor in all the other people alive today who either have been in prison or will end up in prison, the U.S. in prisons, probably closer to 10, 15 of their population at some point or another. Well, you can also add to that the systemic poverty that is reinforced generationally through years of fucked up behavior towards demographics, particularly Black and Indigenous Americans. Those two groups, just think about that. Year after year after year, if it wasn't fucking slavery for hundreds of years, it was fucking Jim Crow laws, like apartheid-like systems of separation, separate lines, redlining, where Black people couldn't accrue any kind of wealth. You know, years and years and years of this, just stacked on stacked on stacked. Absolutely fucked on every single level. Like, it's no exaggeration to say the United States has been committing a genocide against Black Americans, like, for years. Same thing with like Indigenous ones. That one's kind of like, all right, that one's very easy. That's we can just see that, and we're like, okay, that makes sense. But to think that there was an entire group of people who were brought over here as a labor force, and then after that, when they were finally freed, they have been basically persecuted and perpetually kept in poverty. Not to mention, like, with drugs introduced into their environments, with the schools they have to attend being shittier because they're in poorer neighborhoods year after year. Like, I'm glad people talk about this now, like it's acknowledged, but holy fuck, that was just a way. And then to have this idea, it's so callous on top of everything else, to then be like, well, it's up to you. Pick yourself up from your fucking bootstraps. You know, all you Black Americans, what's wrong with you? Why are you all still poor? Why are so many of you in jail? Why are you so overrepresented? Why do so many of you commit murders? Why are so many of you committing murders when you make up such a small percentage of the US population? Why is there these gross representations? Because it's all on you. Every single one of you. You know, you live or die by the sword. You live or die by your merits. You live or die by the meritocracy. Holy fuck. That's America, baby.
Escaping systems where religion and monarchy went one and all together. And in the United States, they created religious freedom. So it was absolutely respected that everyone in their own home could practice any religion, whether it be Catholicism or the Protestant church or whatever was going on in the time. But it was understood that every single individual, first of all, they were not subjects to a government. So what she really admired about the founding fathers was that for the first time in human history, it was written down that the populations are not the servants of the government in place, but the government is there to serve those populations, especially respecting their rights. So because of the basis of religious freedom, also people with no religion whatsoever could come to the United States and become someone without having to be...
She's Guatemalan? Oh, I didn't know that. She was fortunate to be rich because of Central America was one of the places that was the most exploited regions in the world by interests of corporations. Well, yeah, especially American interests. Like, it's just baffling. If you have... members of like the aristocratic class in those kind of countries. Like think of Cubans and all the Cubans who had to flee after the revolution, right? For the simple reason that they had all this inherited wealth and or accrued wealth, all this vast amounts of wealth through the exploitation of individuals to the point in some cases of slavery, like outright slavery. And then of course, yes, there's a revolution and the country is no longer used as just a rich playground for American interests and American corporate interests specifically, where Americans would just go there and basically plunder it, both for its resources and like, you know, literally go over there for like, you know, prostitution, exploiting the people. Like it used to be just a playground for America. And then, yeah, they had a revolution.
The Ayn Rand Institute has a very interesting article called "The United States Was Founded on Secular Principles." And what they explain is that by having religious freedom and not forcing everybody to one point of view, is that then you can create a society that prospers in other aspects of liberty.
How did you become interested in libertarian philosophy yourself?
Well, way before knowing
is
about
so
Rand,
off
many years
base.
before,
Okay, I'm gonna be good on her today. This is too ridiculous, but it was a learning process. I definitely learned some things.
Hey, do you like movies? Do you like Serfs? Do you want movies and Serfs watching the movies? So then come over to the new channels. It's the Serfs cinema. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Can you do the thing, you know, that thumbs up and comment and all those things that help us out in the algorithm that controls every aspect of our lives? Also, if you happen to have a Facebook account, can you delete it? Like, just delete it. You should probably delete your Facebook account because it's not a great company. But hey, if you can't do that for whatever reason, I understand. And could you also go to facebook.com/thesurftimes then and give us a little like and a follow. We're just trying to push back against the fact that people like Ben Shapiro happen to dominate the platform entirely. And when everyone asks why do older generations believe the things they believe, one of the problems is the majority of them on social media use Facebook. So to counter that, we're just going to be on there too now. Also, if you happen to have a union or a worker co-op or even a leftist project, podcast, website, Zoom, MySpace, it doesn't matter. We will advertise it for free on this channel. All you got to do is go to weareserfs.com and use the forms that we got there, weareserfs.com. Thanks, everybody.
To our gods, I'm Raft and Xander Corvus. We shall build golden idols in your honor. To our monarch, Tom Spiker. Our soft, spongy flesh is yours to command. To our lords, Evan Nudie, Trevor R., Alexander Thaler, Ryan Lubin, Bisexual Black Gamer, Toefox, and Jeffrey Lamb, we proudly carry your sigils onto the battlefield. And to our Knights of the Round Table, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, Multimondi, Timothy Hart, Trevor Janis, Lemmy 101, Anthropophagic, Saren 42, Chronic to Hemphog, Callie Kotka, The Great Pudini, Von Janney, Catherine, Radical Maniac, Ramon Acosta, Encosin, J. Fraser Cartwright, Jimmy Bignuts, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Political Puppy, Andreas Chiringuito, Zach Christensen, Nicholas Marks, Jopi, Josh Mickelson, Melissa Murphy, Todd Buckingham, Todd Lajeunesse, and Constance Joyce Lacheris. We tip our cap and lift our mug and salute you.